Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and on Android. We recommend you use Spotify. Also, check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel for content around the sports spectrum. Plenty of Dolphins content coming as training camp opens in less than a week. Also, Off the Floor, that's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. The best place to talk Heat, the most Heat information and conversation, 10 different channels, as well as stage shows and more. We take everything good from Twitter, we put it over there, and we clean out everything that you really don't need. So check it out. It's Off the Floor. Link in the description, and you'll bypass the Apple upcharge. You can cancel it any time. Also, Prize Picks. Use that code FIVE. Put down your 5, get your 50. You know the deal. Daily Fantasy Simplified. Plenty to play right now, even with a few of the sports out of season. WNBA, MLB, boxing coming up this weekend. This big card, Pacquiao fight out in Vegas. Check it out. It's Prize Picks. Use the code FIVE. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yeah, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs, down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Brady Hawk. You can follow me at Brady Hawk 305. We're going to hold Brady down today. We're keeping this episode to 20 minutes. We're not doing 45 minutes on Eric Stevenson or anything like that. We're not going that direction. We're going to focus on core Miami Heat players, and we are taking episode ideas directly from the podcast channel on our Discord. It's a lot to remember, but if you subscribe to Off the Floor, you'll understand it. So that's where we're taking these episodes from as we get a little bit deeper into the summer here. And here's the episode. We are going to rank the Heat's current scoring options in terms of where they're going to fall in the pecking order. And this is going to seem like an easy exercise, but in the past, it has not been. A couple of years ago, Tyler Herro and Jimmy Butler led the team in scoring together. They had the same scoring average. We've talked before previous seasons about, well, maybe this will be the year Bam leads them in scoring. I don't think that's the direction we're going to go this time. But with the addition of Norm Powell and with Andrew Wiggins coming in during the season last year and now having potentially, we'll see, at the moment, we're not expecting him to be traded. Anything can happen. But potentially having a full training camp under his belt. And also with some of the variations to the starting lineup that we've discussed, it's a little bit more of an interesting conversation. But Brady, let's start here. This is just with the Heat. So when we take like Wiggins' numbers, I'm just taking his 17 regular season games with the Heat. We're not going to include that playoff disaster. Okay, so let's start here. Last year, in terms of points per game, Tyler Herro, the clear leader for the Heat, at 23.9. Andrew Wiggins in his 17 games averaged 19. Bam, after a very slow start, got up to 18.1. Of course, Jimmy's no longer here. He only averaged 17 in his 25 games. Duncan Robinson averaged 11, no longer here. Nikola Jovic averaged 10.7, expected to take on a bigger role this year. Terry Rozier averaged 10.6, expected to take on a lesser role this year. Davion Mitchell in his time with Miami averaged 10.3, which was a pleasant surprise, particularly with the efficiency that he played with. And Kel'el Ware, it grew as time went on, 9.3. And Jaime Jaquez Jr., one of the big disappointments of the season, was at 8.6 when we all believed he could be a double-figure scorer last year on better efficiency. But let me give you the shot attempts too, because this plays into it, because the distribution may change a little bit. Tyler Herro, 17.9 field goal attempts per game. Wiggins, 14.8. Bam, 14.3. It's still crazy to me as I look at Jimmy's number. He was at 10.5 last year. Duncan was at 9. Jovic, 8.2. Rozier, 9.9. That ain't happening again. Davion Mitchell, 7.7. Ware, 7.3. And Jaquez, 7.0. We're going to start with the scoring average, but I think we play the shot attempts into it. And then there's one other guy I do want to mention because he's come over now. So Norm Powell, just where he would fit. And of course, you can't extrapolate it completely because he was playing for a completely different team, although a good team last year. Norm Powell last year with the Clippers averaged, 21.1 points. And I'm trying to find the shot attempts real quick. But 21 points, which would have been second on the Heat. What did you have for shot attempts?
He was at 15.8 shot attempts a game.
Okay, which also would have been second on the Heat, right? So that's so playing for a different team, but his scoring average and his shot attempts would have been second to Tyler Herro's. Let's start here. Do you see any chance, barring injury, that Tyler Herro is not the Heat's leading shot taker and leading scorer this season?
No, I don't see any chance of that happening. I think he's still going to be just with a lot of things that Norm Powell was talking about kind of in his Zoom call interview recently. It's like, okay, I'm going to be me. I'm in a contract year, but also my role, I'm going to play my role and I'm going to play off Tyler Herro. And that's kind of like the vibe I got off what his offensive role is going to be. And it's what it should be. Tyler Herro is still going to be the number one option. And kind of what we've seen as of late last season was that he just needed somebody to take a little bit of the pressure off him, as we've kind of talked about. So all of that aside, I'd expect a similar version of Tyler. The points should be around the same, if not maybe a little bit of a drop, just because you're adding Wiggins for a full season. You're adding Powell into the fold, as you mentioned. You're adding some different guys. So maybe it's like instead of 24, it's down to like closer to 23. But the shot attempts, I don't think changes. I think the shot attempts are probably right around the same amount. It's about Spo and Tyler figuring out what the right shots are. It was something we talked about later into the season last year. Was like, okay, they came in, said threes and layups, but as the season went on, it was like, okay, maybe it's time to take a little bit more mid-ranges and take those shots. He added in the fact that he was at the line, 4 free throw attempts a game, which that helped his points per game in general, and I don't think that's going anywhere. That was one of my more promising developments, I think, of last season for the Heat in general, was the fact of him trying to finding ways to get to the free throw line, so that's going to help. But no, I think the more interesting ones, I think, are the 2, 3, and 4 spots for shot attempts and points, but I think Tyler Herro is going to be solidified as still the number one guy in both of those categories.
I'm with you. I don't see that changes. And also, I don't think that the pending possible contract extension has anything to do with it. I don't think that the Heat would suppress his numbers to keep his scoring totals down or anything along those lines. Again, Tyler's going to be evaluated based on what everybody knows about him as a player already. I don't think his efficiency is going to slip dramatically with better offensive options around him. A full year of Wiggins and Powell. Again, he was supposed to play off of Jimmy some last year, but that never really materialized in a lot of the games. Bam's still there. And Davion Mitchell is not the ball stopper that Terry Rozier is. So actually, when they play together, Tyler's going to get more opportunities for shots. So for those who want Tyler's usage to go down, and there's really not a great argument for that anyway, but for those who want it to go down, I don't think that's happening. I think that you're going to see it here or a little bit above. And the question is, can he maintain his efficiency as he does that? All right, but the next question is, I think, more interesting. Now, let me ask you this, okay? Do we still subscribe to the theory that we've had for the past couple of years that the more aggressive Bam is and the more shot attempts he takes, the better it is for this team? Do we still agree with that? Because I think we all kind of felt that way last year, but I don't feel like we're talking about that as a necessity now, or Bam even being in any way the second offensive option this year. Are we overlooking him now because he got off to such a slow start to last season?
No, I mean, his importance post All-Star break was clear. I mean, I think it still stands when he's more aggressive. They're a better offensive team. I think there's another player that we're going to talk about that I think when he's aggressive, it's more important, and that's Andrew Wiggins, because he's a completely different player when he puts up more shot attempts and is kind of engaged within the offense compared to when he's not. Whereas Bam could still impact the game defensively, still impacts the game offensively, even when he's not putting up 15 shot attempts. He's still doing all the stuff in between. The reason why I think it's getting pushed to the side a little bit, to your point, is because there's more of a focus on his fit with Ware right now than the other stuff. Like, it was always about, like, Bam, you just got to go do this, and this offensively. We need you to do this. Now it's like, okay, well, we need you to fit with this guy because this is kind of the what we're pushing into the future with. This is what we want to see moving forward and all this stuff. The spacing issue, there's so much focus on what is maybe his 3-point shots going to develop into to kind of see what that could balance off of where. So all the focus on that, I think, led to that. But 100%, if he was hitting shots in that like in between area that he did in the season prior, and he did post All-Star break early in the season, I think he would have probably even been in a higher shot attempt range just because he wasn't having trouble trying to keep firing. It was just that those shots in between were not hitting early in the season last year. Like if we remember those little bunnies, those little short jumpers, they were just not falling, and he just was kind of in his head about it. He kind of broke out of it a little before All-Star break, and then post All-Star break, he kind of found his rhythm in that spot of the floor again. 100%. I still feel that way. I mean, it probably is fair that we take him for granted a little bit offensively and kind of pushing it to the side and saying, okay, well, Bam is what he is offensively. I don't think that is the case. I think there is still more to see if that they still need him to be. He's their off-court leader now. No Kevin Love, no Udonis Haslem. But look, he's still one of their on-court leaders, and he needs to be that aggressive factor offensively this year. So he's the interesting one, though, Ethan. Like he's the one that I don't know where he could fall in the pecking order, and specifically like with shot attempts and points per game, I could see anywhere from 2 to 4. Like it's very possible.
Well, and the number that I look at more for him, and you and I have discussed this, is the free throw number. I feel like the shot attempt number, there was this big push, right, to get him 15 shot attempts per game. Like Riley even mentioned that in a post, it was 3 seasons ago now, that was sort of the idea. So if you look at the shot attempts, he actually said it before the 22-23 season, okay? And if you look at 2020, let's look at just the Jimmy era, okay? When Bam started to become a regular starter. He started 28 games in 18-19. But 19-20 starts all 72 games he plays, which I believe there were only 72 games in that season because that was the COVID season. 11 field goal attempts per game. Then 12.5, 13. Then after Riley challenged him to have 15, he actually averaged 14.9, but the shot attempts slipped as the season went on. Same thing happened in 23-24, 14.3. Last year, he ramped up to the 14.3. It was lower earlier in the season and more late. I still think he's going to be in the 13 to 15 range. I have a hard time seeing him break out of that, and I actually think with this group, it might be closer to the 13 range. What I would like to see is the free throw attempt number go back up because you look at his last, since he became a regular starter, 5.3, 5.5, 6.1, 5.4, 5.5, and last year 4.2. So that was his lowest mark as a starter. That needs to be over 6. I think if that's over 6, you're okay with the 13 shot attempts. Maybe the shot attempts are distributed differently, but he needs to be getting bigs into foul trouble. He needs to be attacking the basket, using his aggressiveness in that way. He's not a bad foul shooter. I know sometimes he goes through these stretches, but last year he always ends up in about the same place. He was at 76% last year, 75% the year before, 80% the year before. So he's a decent free throw shooter for a big. He needs to get to the line more often. Now, where does he finish? I think I'm leaning towards 4th, okay? But I could see it being 3rd. I think Norm Powell is going to be 2nd on this team in scoring. That's where you and I may have some debate. But because I just think Wiggins is going to fluctuate too much. He doesn't bring it every game. Norm does. If you've watched any of Norm, you know what you're getting from him. If he's tasked to do that, he will do that, and he's going to be high efficiency in that regard. I think it's a good sign for them in some regards if Wiggins is 2nd because the aggressiveness, I think, feeds into the rest of his game. But the efficiency will be better if Norm is 2nd. Does that make sense? And so that's why I can kind of see that either way. But I think it's going to be Powell.
I think it's going to be Powell for points per game and shot attempts. So we don't really differ there. I really do think that, look, he's a gunslinger. He's somebody that's coming in that's very different than Wiggins, whose natural nature offensively is like to be a good team guy. It's what he did in Golden State, and he's just kind of a connector, as Spo would say. But Powell is a guy that's going to go out there, and his role is just like if he's open, he's shooting it. If he's on the fast break and he pulls up for 3, he's shooting it. If they hard close out, he's going to get to the paint, and he's going to get up a little floater. He's going to try to get a shot at the rim. Like he's one of those guys that's going to be able to get the ball up. And honestly, we've been kind of making the case that, next to Tyler, they need a guy like that. They need like somebody that's full throttle offensively that can like put pressure on the defense to just make them worry about somebody else on the court at all times. And that's kind of what Powell I expect him to be. I don't know exactly what his points per game is going to be because it's different than the Clippers of what his role was because they had Harden, who was like this, high level playmaker that's setting up things for Powell, and Kawhi was in and out of the rotation or in and out of the lineup because of the injury stuff. So it's tough to say what the points per game will be, but I 100% do think he is second. I just think it makes more sense for this team. But if you were to tell me, like, if we were doing another episode where, like, as you said, like, most ideal layout of how this is going to go, you'd probably say Powell's a little bit lower, just because if you have Bam or Wiggins overtaking Powell as a scorer, where either one of them are just like super ultra aggressive and efficient, or able to take that, I think you probably trust this offense a little bit more. But I really do think it's probably going to level out. The interesting one to me more than anything is Wiggins versus Bam, because they were close last year. And I think going into next year, both the shot attempts and the points per game, I think is going to be decently close. But also the points per game doesn't have to equal them being like, just because one of them averages more points than the other doesn't mean that person's the third option also.
Right.
So like that could also factor into this, where Bam is your third option, but Wiggins averages more points per game.
I could see it. I do want to mention one thing, though, because I understand about if they're more aggressive, maybe that's better for them overall. But if you just look at if you just want to do it statistically and look at pure effective field goal percentage. So in other words, when a guy is shooting, basically how many points is this registering? I'm trying to find Norm's numbers here for last year. You see his effective field goal percentage, because I found the others. So basically, effective field goal percentage last year, Tyler 56.3, obviously because the high volume of threes and making a lot of them. Bam 52.1, Wiggins 53, and where was Norm? And the other one you can also check is true shooting percentage.
Powell was 55.1.
Okay, so if you just to simply, yes, so he would be second, and again, it's because of the higher percentage on threes. Now, if Bam becomes a more efficient and more productive in terms of volume three-point shooter, which is not necessarily where I want to push his game to go, then you can make an argument.
Let me cut in here, because I was looking at playoffs. That's what he was actually 57.8 in the regular season.
Okay,
so
that would have been first of all these guys, basically, right? So and I figured so. Okay, so right ahead of Tyler, who was 56.3. By the way, Davion Mitchell's effective field goal percentage last year was 59.5, which again, this is not I'm not expecting a repeat, but credit to him for doing it. But that would be the case to make for in a league that has gone towards threes. The Heat were trying to go this direction more last year, threes and layups. Then Tyler and Norm getting the majority of your looks is not a bad thing, especially considering Spoelstra was leaning into that last year with Terry and Tyler.
Yeah.
And now you have a player who is far more efficient over the course of his career than Terry Rozier is, even before Terry's precipitous drop off. So I can see him going that direction. I think that the key is, and on the other side, we'll just mention who we think will be next. Okay, so we'll each have to pick one. Okay. I think the key to this is it's more kind of psychological than statistical in some ways. I think both you and I are saying, well, it's not a bad thing for Wiggins and Bam to go up there, because if you get them aggressive, that's the best version of themselves. But I don't necessarily think them taking more shots is better for the offense than Tyler and Norm taking those shots. I think do we align on that?
I mean, yeah, they're your scorers. I mean, if they're not doing that, they shouldn't be out there. I mean, Bam's bringing the defensive stuff, Wiggins bringing the two-way ability stuff. That this is Powell and Herro's job. This is why they're getting what they're getting paid to do. So they should kind of be the number 1 and 2 scorers on this team, be the number 1 and 2 options this upcoming season. And to your point of bringing up the Rozier thing, this is kind of a way to fix or relive what Spo was planning to do when they acquired Terry Rozier. Like, this is kind of what he envisioned with it, and when he started trying to build with the threes and layups thing, but it wasn't able. You just couldn't do it because of all the things that were factored in. Partly was the Jimmy factor going on. Partly was Rozier kind of tailing off, obviously, last year. It was a hard thing to execute just because they didn't have the personnel to do it. This year, they have more personnel to do it. They have a chance to kind of really live up to this offensively and have the ability to kind of, number one, just put up more threes with Herro and Powell at the helm. Like that, number one. If you have your best 2 scorers being able to put up 10 threes a game, that helps. Like that's just a big part of this in the new NBA. So they're going to lean into it. And what we'll lead into next when we talk about the third option thing, which I think is important here. the player that benefits most from playing off Herro and Powell, I think, is the player that's going to be the third option. That's going to probably be the third scorer as well. The player that if Tyler's playing well and Powell's playing well in a game, who benefits most from those two playing well? And we'll get to that, I guess. After.
All right, so we'll answer that question on the other side. Before we do, though, I want to mention a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, our friend Lynette. You can find her at Insurance by Lynette, 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. Thank you for sponsoring July here with us. If you want to sponsor the 5 Reasons Sports Network, reach out to me on the 5 Reasons Sports DM, and we'll get you in the rotation here. We always will promote Lynette, no, 954-581-8800. Car insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance. She can help you out from her office in Lauderhill, all across the Tri-County area down here in South Florida. Also, huge Miami Heat fan. Follows all of our stuff here. You can reach out to her directly, actually, if you're subscribed to our Discord and also on our YouTube show. So check her out, insurancebylynette.com, Aggressive Insurance Agency, 954-581-8800. Okay, so answer the question that you just posed.
Yeah, to me, it's Bam. I mean, Wiggins, ideally for me, the way I think about this next season is ideally Wiggins is the guy that could pick up the slack in the alternate lineups, like where you have lineups where Herro's off the floor, different guys are off the floor, and it's like, okay, well, he's not going to consistently give you this, but well, maybe for this 6-minute pocket of the second quarter or this 6-minute pocket at the end of the third quarter, Wiggins can lead a lineup and be aggressive. With that said, Bam is the guy that's going to be playing next to Herro and Powell that can really feed off of this. And I know what a lot of people are thinking when you say that. We've said this about a lot of different guys, where Bam is the guy that could feed off of this, but we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen with the free throw line jumper. We've seen it happen with the Duncan Bam handoff. We've seen it with the Herro Bam pick and roll when it first started. It's just that these things end up getting stale because it's the same thing over and over and over every year with the same roster and the same actions and same everything. This gives them a little bit of a different dynamic that if teams are, number one, Herro and Powell have to make them pay out the gate. They cannot be shooting 34, 33% from three and like all that stuff. They have to be playing well to really base off of this. But if teams are flying out at the three-point line off these two guys that are able to play next to each other, Bam on the roll, Bam in the different pockets in the mid post, like all this stuff is just going to make it easier for him. That I think, to me, he's the third option. He's the guy that probably ends up averaging more points. I think I was looking at some of the stuff post All-Star break because we were talking about. Bam was at 20.6 points per game. Wiggins was at 19.9. Bam was at 15.3 shot attempts. Wiggins was at 15.1. They were pretty close in terms of like what the production you were getting offensively and the shot attempts and everything down the line. I'm just curious to see how they're going to project some of these lineups. The other thing that fits into this is the backup big situation, just because if they don't get a backup big, you're staggering Bam and Ware a lot more than I think that we planned a couple of months ago or what we were thinking of what the rotation was going to be. So now Bam's your 5 more often than he's your 4 again. And things just look a little bit different offensively with the spacing and everything. So I'm just interested to see what the team looks like come training camp because it gives you a better idea of what the lineups are going to be. But right now, as it stands, I would say it's Herro, Powell, Bam, Wiggins is where I would kind of layer it down, which is kind of a simple, easy answer, I think, for a lot of people. It's just that I think the Bam Wiggins one is going to probably be closer than a lot of people think.
All right, so let's get to the fifth one now, and we'll probably devote entire other episodes to this. But if you look at the shot attempts from last year, who's still on the roster, it's not going to be Terry Rozier, right? 9.9. Duncan Robinson, not on the roster anymore. I'm going through shot attempts, not points per game. Duncan last year was at 9, obviously not still here. So there are shot attempts to be taken up. Jovic was at 8.2, Davion at 7.7, Kel'el Ware at 7.3, and Jaime Jaquez at 7.0. Then also those who could get roles this year, Highsmith was at 5.3, Larson was at 3.7. I do expect that to go up because clearly he's in the plans here. Let's do this 2 ways. Who do you think will be next in shot attempts, and who would it be best for the Heat if they are?
So who do I think? Me and you may differ on this one. I think it's Kel'el. I think he ends up getting into the 5th spot. I think just what we saw post All-Star break last year, he was 5th at that point in field goal attempts, and I think he was 6th in points post All-Star break, and that was when Duncan was still in front of him. So I think if another year in kind of planning this out a little bit and just him getting a feel for things, and even though there's been all this stuff about Khalil and the effort thing and all that stuff, we've seen the flashes in Summer League that the guy has the offensive talent. He has the upside. He has the ability to, when you talk about who can balance off of Tyler and Powell best, I mean, Ware's kind of one of those guys, ideally, that could benefit off of them if teams are flying out over the top. You can kind of lob it back over to him. So I do think he's fifth. Now, this may be a little bit of a hot take, but I do think if you were to say like best case scenario, Jovic. It's
Yes.
Jovic. I think if this is the year to me where I want to see him pop, I want to see him be able to, number one, we're talking about barring injuries because we need him to stay healthy, just because I want to see like a long sample size. It feels like every time we see something good happening, it gets cut short, like at the very peak of it. But if he's able to pop and he's able to build confidence, you talk about confidence and a guy that benefits off of that, that guy benefits off confidence. Like when he gets it rolling a little bit and he sees the shots going down and he has the ball in his hands and he gets a little rhythm to him, he's a completely different player. And I think that you talk about like who the team feeds off of. He's one of those guys the team feeds off of. He's an energy guy. He's somebody that the ball doesn't stick. He gets it out and kind of flies all over the place. That if he could be not only the playmaker, but like a top 5 shot attempt guy or a top 5 scorer on this team and slip into that fifth spot, I just think that changes a lot for the projection of this team.
Yeah, I would agree. The best case scenario is Jovic. In fact, if Jovic got up to 4th, I think that would be great for this team because that would show the growth. That's certainly a guy that you would want to pay if that's the case. It would mean that they found a role for him. I could see it being where I think Mitchell's shot attempts are going to go down. Just adding, first thing, if he's not starting, I don't see him playing like he was playing 35 minutes a night off the bench last year. I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case this year because I do think Powell's going to log pretty decent. No, what did he average? 32 last year. So you're already with Tyler and Powell. You're looking at, again, both healthy. You're looking at roughly 64 or something like that minutes. And I think he's going to want to get Larson some time too. So if that's the case, and then eventually Drew comes back, and we know Spoelstra likes playing him also. So I don't think that Davion is going to get the shot attempts he got last year. I'm going to go with both ways. I think it's going to be Jovic, and I think it's best if it's Jovic. I do think we're headed for a pop year here. I think it's weird for this to be a make or break year for someone so young, but with the extension out there and the Heat needing to make decisions on him soon, I think there is going to be a push to get him that time. And also, to make Ware continue to earn it, which is clear they want to do that. And that was the way they leaned. I will give you one dark horse here, though. The back of my mind is telling me we're writing off Jaime Jaquez too soon. And I don't I have my concerns. I've expressed them about, is there a second act here, the way he's been scouted, but the way that Spo talked about him, and we probably should play that clip somewhere, about getting back to a downhill game and making those adjustments and not standing in the corner. They have a pretty good grasp, I think, on what's happened with him. And he had 30-point games as a rookie. Like there is scoring talent in there, and I can see it. I'm not projecting it this year, okay? But I think we may be overlooking it a little bit too much. I don't think it would be Larson. As much as we saw some of the scoring chops that he has, I don't think that's how they would use him. So I don't think it's going to be him. So I'm thinking I'm going with Jovic, and I think it's best if it's Jovic. Obviously, if Ware is doing it, that's good because that means, you still want him to do the screen setting and the boxing out and all that stuff, the non-box score stuff. But if he's scoring, there's probably a level of engagement there where Spoelstra's comfortable leaving him on the floor. So that's good. But I'm going to lean towards Nico on this one. And I'll say this. If Nico's not in the top 7, and I know he does other things, he's a playmaker and all that. If he's not in the top 7 in shot attempts this year, then to me, that would be a failure this season. Like, this is the season you want to see it, okay? And he's going to get that international experience again. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt before it and he can play through it. But I'm going to go with Jovic on this one.
So you gave your dark horse, but I want to give – you mentioned him, but I think we're underselling him just because he had such a great year last year. And I think we're underselling Davion in a lot of ways. Like, I feel like we kind of like – when we've talked about him, it's like, okay, we're just kind of throwing him in the mix. But, like, yeah, he shot so well. He's going to drop. He's going to have kind of a worse season that he did last year. but he was just such an important piece for them last year. Like, he was so strong defensively. He took a grasp on an offense that had no reason to like kind of level out the way it did with him at the helm of it. Like, him being able to get to the basket and finish at a high level, his playmaking peak, obviously the shooting. Like, it wasn't like a guy that like doesn't usually shoot well and he just shot 45% from three and did nothing else. Like, this guy was impacting the offense in all levels of the half court. So like, yeah, he's not going to shoot 45% from three, 100%. He may not even shoot 40. He may not even shoot 38. We'll see what ends up happening. But once again, like me saying that, I feel like I'm underselling the guy. But I do think there's a real strong case that he is at least, let's say, fifth in shot attempts. Because if let's say the percentages dip a little bit, the points per game drops a little bit because not only the percentages drop, but also you add Powell into things. But I think he is somebody that's going to come in and still get shots up. He's still going to have the ball in his hands a decent bit and kind of set things up, gets the basket. So he's kind of my one dark horse that I'd say maybe we're underselling offensively a little bit.
I could see it. They just committed to him too. I mean, they're paying him. They're paying him for a reason. It's not just for the defense. They expect him to create, get a foot in the paint like he did last year, and make open shots, and even step into some open shots, create some open shots. I think their position now, the Powell thing just it doesn't make them elite, but it does put everybody a little bit closer to their proper roles. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. He's not a true number one, but they have a couple of number twos now. I think you can look at it, or 2A, 2B, something along those lines. I think we're still waiting on the one on this roster, but it looks a little more natural and normal. And then I could see with Davion saying, just do what you do best. Okay, just do what you do best. Come in, if he's going to come in off the bench, and just terrorize ball handlers. And you get shots, you get shots. And you know, in a lot of ways, it's going to be up for him to help get the ball to Norm and to Tyler to help them create the easiest possible shots. But it should be interesting. Again, I'm with you. It's going to be Herro leading them in scoring, provided that he's healthy. And I don't really know how Heat fans can have a problem with that, considering the efficiency level that he played with last year under pretty difficult circumstances. I know the playoffs didn't go as you wanted, but it really didn't for anybody. All right, Brady, appreciate it. Use the code 5, FIVE at PrizePicks. Reach out to Lynette and insurancebylynette.com. We got more news coming about the podcast coming up soon. We'll get to that in the next few podcasts. Also, some new sponsors we've added. So reach out to us if you want one of those slots as well. Have a good one, everybody.